You have something?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending from where you are now. Welcome to our Myanmar TESOL Teacher Support Program. And it's been a long while. We haven't met each other and we haven't delivered any CPD session. But today is our big day to have met all of the teachers here and from different background and from different education sectors. So before we start and before we introduce our speaker, Seani, let me tell you a little bit about our Myanmar TESOL organization, right? Actually, we are known as MMTESOL. The long form of MMTESOL is Myanmar TESOL. It is an organization. It is a non-profit organization. We have been working on professional development sessions for the teacher, especially for teachers of English, because we believe quality education always starts with well-qualified teachers. So that's why we have been delivering a lot of CPD sessions for our teachers. And on this purpose, we have been working with teachers and teaching professionals locally, regionally, and internationally by offering CPD session and some training sessions. So before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about housekeeping rules. So this session will take about an hour and the whole session will be recorded. And you can make comments and ask questions and write, meanwhile the speaker is talking or the speaker is delivering, you can write your questions in the chat. And after the talk, we will have a Q&A session, so for about 10 minutes. And then you will be able to ask questions yourself by having your microphone on. Towards the end of the webinar, we will also send you a Google form for evaluation and e-certificate. This form will be used to take, to take your names and addresses so that we can send back the certificate to you after the webinar. Last but not the least, there is a kind request to all of you to have all your microphone off and to keep yourself mute during the session while the speaker is talking. So let me introduce the speaker. Today, we are very delighted to have Matt Seani and to have an opportunity to join Seani sessions for how to plan lessons effectively. Right, this is really great, isn't it? So let me tell you a little bit about our speaker. So Seani, we call Seani, but his full name is Seani Nizam. Seani Nizam is a freelance English teacher with Cambridge CLIL certification, and he is a BA English holder, honors holder, and he is currently working as an IGCSE instructor at Austin University, Myanmar. And he has been teaching students of different level and different age group for both general and academic purposes. In his free time, he enjoys reading and writing. He is also one of the active volunteer members at Myanmar TESOL, a non-profit network with teachers and teacher educators to provide the professional development program for teachers of English. So on top of that, he is a well-loved and well-respected team member in our Myanmar TESOL organization. With his understanding of the teaching's context in Myanmar and his Cambridge CLIL certification, I'm sure today we will learn something useful and practical for us. So without further ado, shall we begin? And may I hand over the floor to Sriani? Sriani, the floor is yours.
Yes, okay, thank you. So good evening, everyone. So I'll be sharing how to plan lesson effectively. So in my session, Teacher May will be my facilitator. Okay, Teacher May I invite you to be my facilitator?
Thank you very much, Sarah. With pleasure. Yeah, I'll be asking you questions, in fact, to get the topic more interesting. Yes. Yes. So, Sarah, okay.
Thank you, Teacher.
Yes, Sarah. Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is a very, very useful topic for us, for the teachers. Okay, not only for teachers of English, teachers teaching any subject. So lesson planning, it is part of the teacher training programs. And whenever we have teacher training or teacher professional development program, lesson planning is an essential part. So my first question is, why do we need to plan our lesson? Is it necessary? Can you please explain to us?
Yes, okay. So without planning, so we won't have any map. Okay, so you will feel like feeling insecure. So without any plan. So let's look at this. Okay. So why do we need to plan? So we know that Jesse Richards, so he wants us like the success with which a teacher conducts a lesson is often thought to be depend on the effectiveness. So if you plan the lesson, so it depends on the effectiveness of your lesson. So without any plan, you fail to deliver an effective lesson. And also, he also said like this, if we plan in advance, so we can resolve the problems and difficulties that we are going to face throughout the lesson. And also we can provide a map, as I said, and we can also have a record of our lesson. How did we teach about this lesson? And when we deliver the lesson, we will have the various types of lesson like full-scale lesson, integrated lesson, system lesson, and a lot. So if you can record the lesson, so we can refer back to it and we can make it improve. So if we have a detailed lesson plan, so we can make sure that the lesson sequence is well thought out beforehand. And also it is very effective for the students and they will feel very secure that our teachers have pay a lot of us like this teacher. Yes. Teacher, you are on mute.
Thank you. So I really like the comparison of between the lesson plan and the roadmap. Okay, so you compare the lesson plan with the map. So with the map, we will never get lost. Okay, we know what we are going to, and we have a very good sense of direction, and we know what we want to achieve. So yes, lesson plans and maps very good. Okay, for us, at least we will not go off track. That's great. So what are the benefits of lesson planning for teachers?
Okay. So benefits. So let me bring back to the audience and audience teachers. What do you think? If you plan your lessons, which kind of benefits will you get? For example, I feel secure. And then what else? For example, I can think of my students, about my students in advance. What do you think? You can use the chat box to type your answer. Oh, to be effective. Good. Okay, so what else? To save the time, of course. Okay, so because we have the limited time to teach our students, so that's why we need to save the time. Very good time management, indeed. Okay, so time and aims. Yes, exactly. And then more confident. Good. Okay, so to think of my students ahead, exactly, because students are our learners and we need to make sure that they learn something very well. Okay, so a lot. Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, so let me show you this. This is the brief of my presentation for the benefits of lesson planning. So first we can think about the content, what are we going to teach? And then the materials, which kind of materials are we going to use? Before you plan the lesson, you don't know which kind of materials we are going to use in the lesson, throughout the lesson, and also the logical sequencing of the lesson. So this is very important because if you don't sequence the lesson very well in advance, there will be a chaotic things inside the classroom. At the time, the lesson may be failed at the end. And then we also need to think about the activities. When it comes to the activities, if we think ahead of the activities, we can also think about the mixed ability groups, and also we can differentiate the learners. We can also apply the different varieties of techniques. And also it provides a sense of security, as I said before, and it's a log. It's like a record for your organization and for yourself. And also it is very helpful for the substitute teacher. So if you are ill or if you have something to go, something to leave at the time, you can easily substitute your class with other teachers. Another thing is like you can think of the different backgrounds for the students and then what are the interests of my student, and then you can choose your lessons very effectively. After that, learning styles and multiple intelligences, you can vary the activities like I said, thinking about the mixed abilities. At the time, if you think it, you can also think about the learning style and you will be very familiar with it for every lesson. Another thing is the mixed ability. So in these days, the hot topic is like inclusion and also the diversity. So to include all of the students in our lesson, we have to prepare it in detail. So these are some of the benefits that I highlighted here. Okay.
Thank you, Sia. So the benefits are not only for the individual teachers, for teachers, yes, it's a guideline. And It's for other lesson plans are good for other teachers as well. In case of, let's say that the class teacher is sick or is busy with some other personal things or important things, and he or she cannot take the class, it is good for the teacher to cover the lesson. So good for the colleagues. And sometimes, yes, of course, yeah, it is for record purposes. Sometimes you can keep a record of good lesson plans so that other teachers can imitate or copy or learn from that lesson. It is also good for institutions as well, for the schools and for the teaching centers. Okay, they are the lesson plans for this term, for this year, and you can review and revise and make them better for the next year. So yes, so there are quite a lot of benefits for most people or all people in the teaching learning situation. Thank you very much. So, there are benefits. So my next question is, do we have models? Do we have, for example, menu or the recipe for lesson planning? Do we have specific ways of learning lessons? Yeah.
Yes, of course. So we have some models that I just highlighted here. So you all would be familiar with them. The first one is the PPP. So we know it, okay? So present, like presentation, and then you practice it. Finally is production stage. So PPP lessons is very popular in our teaching field, and most of the teachers are very familiar with this. You present the task, and then you practice for the students the language item that you presented. After that, finally you make the learners produce the language item with the control practice and then free practice. Finally, I add the feedback. Feedback is one of the important things most of the teachers should do. So like in the feedback, we usually have the content first, then we go to the language. So content is like you need to give the students what did they talk in their group. Okay, so what does your friend like about this? For example, like this. And then for the language, so when we give the feedback to the learners, we start with the positive thing first. So it is like encouraging the students and reinforcing the students to speak it out. And then you finally show the some of the round sentences or mistake sentences on the board and just let them correct it. So this is the PPP model. Another thing is like task-based language teaching. So I think this is from the Rod Ellis. And then task-based learning is like pre-task, and then task cycle, and then post-task. So in the pre-task, so we give the model task for the learners, and then we go to the main task, and then we can cycle it again, and then post-task is like feedback, and we reinforce the task. The next one is from the Jeremy Karma, so ESA. So that's what I love it. Engage, steady, activate, and then finally, so in the engage, steady, activate, so this is not a very fixed one like PPP. So you can start with the activation stage, or you can start with the steady stage, and then you can engage it again, you can activate it again. So in ESA has a very multimodal like this patchwork. We can start everything that we like if the lesson is suitable for the students. And then finally is TTT, test, teach, test. So this one is also very interesting because I think like there is a balance between the teachers and the students. Like you test or diagnose your students first. Then you teach the lessons or the language items. After that, you test it again with the control and then freer practice, reinforcing the learner with a different task, and then finally the feedback. So these are some of the modus lessons for the teachers that I have highlighted here. They are popular teacher. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, this is quite a lot. Yes, okay, so these are quite popular lesson plan models, popular in the field of ELT. Yes, maybe we need more sessions. Okay, maybe if you have time to stay with us, okay, maybe you do a session on PPP, another session on TBLG, another session on ELC, another session on TTT. Each model, I think we can talk a lot about. Yeah. So okay, so next time, yeah, okay, spare some time for the Myanmar thesaurus, yeah. Okay, so okay, they are really good. And if we compare them as recipes, what are the ingredients? Okay, what are the the things that we must include in planning a lesson. What are the main components in lesson planning, yeah?
Okay, so before I go to the components of the lesson planning, so we usually have the scale lesson and the system lesson, right? Okay, so at the time, I would like to recommend you to think about your scale lesson and the like system lesson, sorry, this here. So for the system lesson, for example, it's like you can use a PPP, ESA, or TTD, like I said before. And then for the scale lesson, you can think about pre, while, post. So what will I do first? And then what will I be doing in the middle of my scale lesson? And then finally is the post lesson and what will I do? So these are the things. So what are the main essential components for the lesson plan is here. So firstly is we need to think about who are our students? So what about their levels? What about their backgrounds? So what about their age? What do they need like this? So this is the student profile. So we need to think it ahead. And even if you need it, we can make a needs analysis for our students to draw a very effective lesson. And also next thing is the content. What are we going to teach in our lesson? Like skills to be focused. Are we focusing on the listening skill or reading skill, cognitive skill, or the receptive skill like this? And another thing is like main aims. Like aims are really important because it shows our goals to reach with the systematic staging. So that's why in the title of the aims, we can define like main aim. So aims are connected to the students and then subsidiary aims. And then we can also provide with our personal aim. So teachers are teaching. Okay, so not only for the students, we also need to make continuous professional development. So we can't be perfect all the time. So that's why we should prepare. So which kind of aim should I improve in this lesson? Okay, like this. Another thing is like this is very essential. We need to think it ahead before the lesson. This is the anticipated problems. So for example, if we are going to introduce a new language items, students may have some of the pronunciation problem, some of the like structure grammar problem, some of the word collocation problems. We think it ahead. So this is the anticipated problems. And also we should provide possible solutions for these anticipated problems. Another thing is like materials. So which kind of materials are we going to use? Is it PowerPoint slides or worksheets or just a link or live worksheets or interactive worksheet like this? Next one is the timing. So in the lesson plan, we should put like 5 minutes for the leading, 5 minutes for the another like introduction stage. So like this. So timing is also important because we are teaching our student within the limited time. Another thing is like the procedures. What are we going to do? So we should note it down step by step. And then stage A. So we did something, we do something, and then why do we do this? And then for the every procedure, so we should write every stage A so that we have intention to do. And then finally is interaction patterns. So interaction pattern is like will the teacher go with individual tasks or pair words or the group words? And then what about the class words like this? So myself the tutor just gave me a helpful tip. Helpful tips is like less is more, keep it simple. And then most of the teachers have a lot to give our students, that actually less is more. So if we prepare the some items with effective and like fruitful way, so the students will definitely get what we teach. Okay, so that's the essential components.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay. I want to know a bit more about the skills lesson and the system lessons. Yeah, why do they need different components? Can you please go back to the previous slide and can you please, link this to the slide that that you talk about on the components? Yeah.
Okay. So the system lesson and skill lessons are not the same. So that's why we should think about how will we flow our lesson. So if James Scrivener described that like practice and produce lesson models in his learning teaching book. So that's why And also, he described some of the lesson commentaries for the PPP. So that's why we should think about the system lesson. System lesson are the grammar lessons and then vocabulary lesson. And also, I just forgot to put function lessons too. Okay, so we can vary our lesson model so that we can be suitable with the lesson planning. For the scale lessons, it's like this. For the reading and the writing, we can link together. And then for the listening and the speaking, we can link it together. So the lesson will be very effective if we just divide them down. So if not, we will be missed a lot and we will be like messy in the classroom. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Sia. Again, here, I think we need more time. Okay, so next time, Sia, can you please, do some more sessions, skills lessons, and system lessons separately in different sessions. Yeah, it will be more beneficial for
I will try
all
to
of
do
us.
it.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So here in this slide, you talk about aims. Yeah. So yes, of course, we all know that aims are important, but how do we write aims? Yeah. Aims are what we want to achieve. So can we just say to teach grammar, or can we just say to teach English? So do you have any specific advice in writing aims? Yeah.
Yes, of course. So before I talk about this one, so I want just bring it back to the teachers, so who are listening to me. So how do you usually write your aims? Can you please write example one in the chat? Hello. Can you please write your lesson aim that you recently taught to your students? How do we usually write a lesson aim or a learning outcomes?
Yes, the question is
To apply aim.
Yes. Yes.
To apply aim at the end of the lesson, my student will be able to use. Oh, good. Okay. So to apply in reality. Good. Okay. Main aim, regular activities, irregular activities. Good, teachers. Okay. So aims are very important in our lessons. So aim should be very, very specific. So here, I will just tell you from the script and just describe it here. We should start it with by the end of the lessons, and then student will be able to. So after that, we have to use the verb. I will show you the example one later. So the verbs that you use should be observable verbs. Okay, so sometimes we can't use know. So know is how will the learners know. Okay, so if you are teaching the literature, so it can be student will be able to understand the poetic devices. It can be. So if you're teaching the literature or something related to the poetry, but if you are teaching the language, so we should write observable verbs. So you can reference to the observable verb to the Bloom's or Revise Anderson and the Cradworth's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy, if you find the Bloom's taxonomy, so you will find a very useful list of verbs there. So we should start with by the end of the lesson, student will be able to apply, student will be able to speak like this. So, and also, can someone state me what is SMART here? So we usually use it when we write our goals and our aims. Can someone decode the word SMART? Yes. Specific. And then what else? Measurable? Good. Yes. Okay. So we should use the SMART goal to write our lesson aims. So SMART goal is like specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, both are acceptable, and then relevant or realistic, both are acceptable, and then finally is timely or time bound. Okay, so we can define like this for the acronym SMART, and then plus in the context of. So I will just show you the example here. Okay, so I just divided the two lesson aims for the linguistic aim and the skill aim. Linguistic aim is for the system lesson. Okay, so here is like this. By the end of the lesson, student will be able to use the present perfect has, have, plus, been, to, past participle in the context of describing personal experiences. Next one is by the end of the lesson, student will have developed. So this is for the skill lesson. And then they are reading skill for gist and detail in the context of shopping in the city. So the reason why we put in the context is we have the limited time. So the student can't speak everything. So out of this context. So that's why we set a limited one. So that's why our aim should be very smart. Yes, teacher. Jay, you are on mute.
Sorry again. Yes, okay. So yeah, it's quite clear. So linguistic aims and the skill aims, okay, they differ in terms of the students will have achieved by the end of the lessons. Okay, linguistic aims, they will learn the language, the systems. Okay, the system means the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation. Skills are, of course, over the 4 skills: reading, writing, speaking, listening. Yes, this is very good. So we'll be able to use, and we usually write aims using this structure. We'll be able to use future focused.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll have developed. Yes, okay. And you mentioned reading skills, but very specific reading skill for gist and details, not just reading skill. Okay, and in the first part, linguistics aim, we'll be able to use present perfect. Yes, but present perfect in the statement form has, have, plus, okay, being, to, and past participle. So very specific in the context of it is contextualized, and whoever is assessing your lesson or observing your lesson or trying to see what you have done in the lesson will know that you are focusing on this. Okay, the area that you want to concentrate on. So this is very smart. Okay, smart, as you mentioned, specific, measurable. Okay, measurable because at the end of the lesson you can listen to the students, you can read their work, and you will know that whether they have learned or not. Okay, and attainable, yes, okay, this is something that student can get. But again, when we are doing this, we also need to have the students' level in mind. Okay, are we teaching beginner levels, advanced levels? Then okay, the lesson aims will be more realistic and relevant. And the time bound, yes, okay, there should be some time frame. Okay, here, of course, okay, we are just looking at general aims, but we can mention that by the end of the let's say 15 minutes lesson or 1 hour lesson, students will be able to. So it means that at the end of the lesson, after 1 hour, student will be able to, will have learned something. But doesn't mean that, okay, by the end of, let's say, 1 hour, okay, can we expect students to be the master using the language points that we are teaching? Can they be, we expect students to know everything about what we have taught to them in 1 hour's time, yeah?
Exactly, no, teacher. So because we have a very limited time, and also that's why we should put that in the context of something. So if not, student can't use and they can't take in every time. So we just put them a lot in their mind, but they will have the take in their head. So we need to consider about how far can they take in? Like what about their attention span? In these days, so most of the students can give enough attention span because of the age of technology. So they want to use phone a lot. So that's why we can't expect it. So that's why we should write it in a very simple and specific way for our aims so that we can achieve our goal by the end of the lesson. Yes.
Thank you, sir. And okay, what I believe is learning is a journey, yeah. What we teach in 1 hour is just a first step for them to get awareness, to get to know the language points. For example, the use of present perfect tense. Okay, and we cannot expect students to produce error-free. Okay, no mistakes or after 1 hour. Okay, at least they get to know, okay, how to use the present perfect, and they start using it, and that's the benefit. That's the good learning outcomes for us. But students, we have to keep on learning, and we have to keep on encouraging, okay, doing repeated sessions, giving feedback, and motivating them. So, okay, students can get better and better, making less mistakes, and they themselves get more confident and produce better language, better performance in the future. Yes. So, okay, because okay,
exactly.
Yes. Okay. Sometimes, okay, and it happens to me. I was quite ambitious. At the end of 1 hour lesson, my student will have this. But in fact, in reality, no. And as you mentioned in the previous slide, we teach mixed ability classes. So some students are strong, some students are not very strong. Some students, okay, they have good learning, past learning experiences. Some people, they get to know it only for the first time. So we cannot say that, okay, one size fits all. No, we cannot do that. But at least when they start to try to use it, okay, and okay, their attempt, okay, something that we need to recognize and give appreciation there. Yes, thank you so much.
Exactly.
Thank you, Xiang. So, okay, we talk about, okay, so linguistic aims and the skill aims, they are for language lessons, okay, any language, okay, English, Chinese. So what about, okay, other subjects, okay, do they, how can they plan their lessons effectively, yeah? Okay, this lesson models, this technique, is it also applicable in teaching other subjects, yeah?
Yes, teacher. So for the aims, we can stay used in the other subjects. So if the teachers who are listening here from teaching, I mean like teaching different subjects like history, geography, and also the science. So this lesson plan is for you. So this is from the CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning. So teachers of English can also use it. So the first one is like, one is that the learning outcomes. So what will the student know? We should apply like this. My student will know, because in the science lesson, so some of the students might not know how to call some of the operators. So that's why we will have the student will know, and then will be able to, what will they be able to do by the end of the lesson? And then what will they be aware that? So finally, will be aware that we should reduce the use of plastic like this. So that's why the aims may be like we need to write 2 or 3 so that the learning outcomes are formed and like effective. And then next one is communication. For the CLIL is based on the 4 C. So this one is for the communication. So communication here is the target language items like vocabulary or grammar. So in these vocabulary and language items, so I would like to describe the 3 language attributes. So the first one is language of learning. Second one is language for learning, and then language through learning. The first one is language for learning. Is language of learning is like subject-specific vocabulary. Which kind of phrases and words will my students need? So we need to prepare such kind of language items for our students. For example, if we are teaching the science, so we should prepare predator, phrase, adaptation, such kind of language item in advance, and then we can teach them. After the language for learning, so sometimes we give the assignment to our students that you should work together to find out the global perspective for the to compare with the local perspective. At the time, the student may need the language for their learning. So they need to agree. So they need to show their evidence. So and then they need to support their arguments like this. So at the time, the teachers should provide with the useful language phrases for the learners. Next one is language through learning. So if we are teaching science and other kinds of geography or history like this, so we can come across the language items that can appear or emerge throughout the lesson. So at the time, the teacher should highlight it. And also, if the student need to confirm what is this, how to pronounce it, the teacher should address with this language item. So that's why if we prepare with the communication for the CLIL teachers, so you should prepare the 3 things: language of learning, language for learning, and then language through learning. So this is the language triptych. So you can also search about language triptych and you can learn a lot. So this is just my brief explanation. Another thing is like, okay, so cognition. So cognition is one of the important things. So in science will have the process of skill. So like reasoning skill, and then the next one is argumenting skills. For the loss and horse, we can refer to the higher order thinkings and lower order thinkings from the Bloom's taxonomy. Another thing is citizenship. So one we learned for example, like the water cycle. So after learning the water cycle, will our students get the citizenship to save our water, conserve our water? So the teacher should write it accordingly. And then next one is yeah. Okay, so resources and materials. So for the science teacher, are you going to use the apparatus to show the students, and then where they learn this material? Or for the history teacher, are you going to use the time chart to learn about the time? And then next one is like the procedures. So especially in the CLIL book, so it mentions about the procedures only, but I would like to add timing and interaction patterns. And procedure is like how will you scaffold your lesson? How will you start? How will you do in the middle of the lesson and the post lesson? Then timing is also important. You should note it down. And another thing is how will you make the activities with a partner or in group work or the class work or like this. And then next, the last one is the follow up. So after learning the water cycle. So what will they learn more about this? Like in our environment, what can they absorb? Like something important or something useful about the water cycle or conservation of the water, like this teacher. Yes. So these are all the running order for the CLIL teachers. So they can start with all the topics and then write down the language items, their lessons A, and etc. etc.
Yes, thank you, Sam. Thank you. Yes, the learning aims, because this is the example that you have shown on the screen is CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning. Yes, okay, so there's a language aims plus the aims for the content subject. Yes, and if we are teaching, let's say, maths or science, okay, then
Yes.
okay, learning outcomes maybe just understanding and application of the concepts of the some scientific topics or mathematical topics. Yes, but if we are teaching the content subject using English or some other in the medium or some language, there will be two different aims: the language aims and also the content subject aim. Yes, and yes, okay, you have mentioned citizenship and everyday cognition. Okay, the thinking. This is good because these days, when we teach, okay, we usually when we teach, we want to teach the lesson. We just want to finish the lesson. For example, if I teach grammar, I just want to teach grammar. If I teach vocabulary, I just want to teach vocabulary. But in fact, okay, the learning experience itself should be something beneficial for the students, something enriching for the students. For example, while we are learning vocabulary, while we are learning grammar, students should be able to see the world, okay, what is happening.
Yes.
So not just giving them a list of words to memorize, but showing them how the words is used, how the words are used in the context, in a real life situation, and how they can use it in a realistic situation. So we are giving them chances, opportunities to think beyond the classroom, beyond the textbook. So they are what we call these days 21st century skills. So for us, for teachers, okay, we have quite a lot of responsibilities. We teach the language, we teach the content subject, but at the same time, we want the students to gain many other things. So 21st century skills, good social skills, emotional intelligence. Yes. So yeah, depending on what we want to achieve, the aims may vary. And of course, the content depending on the different content subject, the aims may be different, but there are some other aims which should be very common in all lessons. This is what I think. So,
Yes.
yes, that's great. Yeah. So, okay, so we have talked about a lot about the lesson planning, and okay, sometimes some people say lesson planning is quite time consuming, okay, and it's very difficult. So for those, and is there any different way, or an easy way, a shortcut way, or personalized way to plan the lessons? Yeah.
Yes, of course. So this is a very effective one for me. So because I don't have much time to like plan a lesson in a very detailed way. So it is very time consuming. It may need 1 hour, 2 hour, or more than 2 hours. So that's why I just picked up a book from the James Scrivener, and I just got a very great idea from his book. So this is alternative to formal planning. So the first one is like informal running order. So informal running order, which like you write down some of the orders that you would like to do in the lesson. So for example, leading, and then setting the context, and then my present stage, I will present these language items. At the time, you know how to do. So that's why you don't need to do the language analysis. And also for the presentation practice and then produce, you write down with some of the notes. So this is the running order. Then you will have a very effective flow of your lesson and you won't deviate from your lesson. So that is one of the effective way. Another thing is like using the using the flow chart with sketch pauses. I will show you the example. So sketch pauses are like the pauses. So you put the orders of the lesson and then you use the arrows to go back or to move on like this. Another thing is like think it through. So sometimes if I don't have time to write down or any running order or using any sketch pauses, while I was on the road, I dream it. So how will I start? Which kind of activities am I going to do? Which kind of language problems will my student get? And then I dream it in my mind and then I apply it with the lesson. If needed, sometimes I prepare only for the critical moments. So critical moments are important moments. So if I am going to teach about like collocations lessons for food and drink, student might not know some of the utensil. Okay, so at the time, I need to write down how to present the utensil. And then for the lesson activities, so which kind of activities for my learners? Some of the learners are very slow. Some of the learners are very fast finishers. At the time, I need to write down, okay, good do, and then must do tasks in my lesson activities. So these are the 4 points that you can use in your lessons if you don't have enough time or if you don't have much time. But I recommend the detailed lesson plannings. But if you can do it with informal lesson planning, so do it nicely and systematically, it is also very effective for your lessons too. Okay. And also here is my example. Examples from the James Scrivener Learning Teaching book. So this one is the running order, and then this one is the using sketch pauses. Yes, teacher.
Yes, okay. For me, I am more on on the one which is shown on the left. Okay, so because for day-to-day lesson planning, it's I cannot go in very much detail. I cannot do everything for every little thing. So what I do is I just have a list of what I'm doing, and I put them in the order. Sometimes I need to make changes. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have to change 5 to number 7, and then 7 to number 4. So I usually do it this way, because I don't have time to do very detailed lesson planning. But of course, if I have to teach new classes or sometimes for lesson observation, then this lesson planning is detailed lesson planning is really, really important, and it is very useful. Yes, yeah, thank you. So we plan the lesson and we teach the lesson, and afterwards, what do we do? Do we just forget? the lesson that we have done. Okay, what should be the next steps here? Okay, after we have done the lesson.
Yes, teacher, it's very important. So it's about the evaluation or reflection of our lessons. Okay, so this is the way I usually reflect my lesson. So the first one is I ask question. We can ask our question ourselves. And then I usually ask like, did I meet the lessons goal that I set for the aim? And then the student can get what I teach. And then what went well. So in the lesson, for example, my activities went well, student love it, they are very engaged in my lessons. And what didn't go well? For example, if I elicit some of the phrases and then I need to refrain my uh, like articulation. Some of the words are maybe a little bit difficult for them. So at the time, I need to ask and refer by myself. And then how can I improve it? And then for this lesson, I have prepared. Then what about for the another lesson? How can I make some of the changes to improve and to tailor to the needs of my students? Another thing is like in the middle of the academic year, so I usually ask honest feedback from my students. So what about my teaching? So you can feel free to suggest me, so I won't be any or irritated, or I won't hold any grudges on you, so you can freely give feedback. For sometimes I use the technique that I just spread out the papers then without any name, so you can write down anything that you would like to suggest me. So I'm just an open and honest person, so I can feel it and I can accept it, because I am teaching for their improvement, not for myself. Although I need to do my professional development, I want my students to excel in everything that they have learned. And then next one is the peer teacher observation. So for this one, so we should have a good partner. So and also the another teacher should give you the whole lesson time. So if the teachers have time, so they can come and observe our lesson plan and then just make some of the comments and just do some of the reflections together. So this is some of the useful way I think we can just apply it in our lesson reflection. Yes.
They are really useful. Yeah. Yes. Okay. We can ask questions to ourselves, and okay, we can have some kind of criteria, some checkpoints or checklist that you can choose. Okay, did I lesson go well? Did my lesson go well? Okay, and what are the good things that I did during the lesson, and what are the things that I was not very happy from? So you can set a set of questions to ask yourself. This is also very good. And okay, asking feedback from the student is also very good, because okay, but sometimes okay, some students, they are too polite to give feedback to their teachers. Okay, they think okay, many people think that giving feedback is criticizing, but criticizing and giving feedback are different. Okay, criticizing is finding faults. Okay, criticizing is good and bad. Criticizing can be finding faults. It can also be giving a very critical or very what you call good judgment. But sometimes some people are reluctant to give feedback, especially if they have to say something negative towards what you have done. So this is good. Okay, maybe we can ask our students very general, did you like my lesson? What did you learn from today's lesson?
Yeah.
Do you want to have something more like this in the future? Or what thing do you want to know more about from the lesson? So it is also like encouraging the students to have some reflective practices. So this is also good for us.
Yes.
And peer observation, this is good. Okay, you can have your friends observe you, maybe some part or the whole lesson. This is good. And sometimes what I have done is, it was at the beginning of my teaching career, that time the video recording was still very rare that time, so I recorded myself on a recorder. I listened to myself after the lesson to find out about the amount of the teacher's talk. I thought that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I did it once. I thought that my teacher talk was good, but when I listened to myself, it was was shocking. Okay, I was talking all, okay, the whole lesson. Okay, I didn't give time for the students to think for their answer. Before they answered, I give the answers right away. So horrible. Okay. So then, okay, it was good. Yeah, what we call okay, awareness of myself, what I did during the class. So this is also another way of reflecting. Okay, so reflecting on the
Yes.
lessons. So they are very good, yeah. Yes. Okay. I think you have covered quite a lot in your talk. Do you have anything
Yes.
to recap what you have done? Do you have any final words to tell us, to the audience? Yeah.
Yes. So if you have enough time and if you're a pre-service teacher, so I recommend you to plan a very detailed lessons, and then you can move into the alternative to the formal lesson planning, and then so enjoy it in your lesson, but don't hesitate to be very flexible inside the classroom. So students are the centers of the learning. Okay, so that's why focus on your students. So you don't need to, sometimes we feel like we have to go such kind of path, right? We need to follow it strictly, but don't feel like this. Sometimes the student may be tense or feeling not well about the lesson. So at the time, we should be very flexible, and we should know how to adapt and adjust and to tailor to the needs of our lovely students. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much for this session. Very useful, very practical, and it is okay. Okay, very beneficial for all of us. Okay, I'm sure we have every one of us have learned something from this, and we are ready to plan lessons more effectively in the future. So, okay, we still have a bit of time. So, okay, I will open the floor for the questions and answers, Q&A. So, Sayas and Sayamas, the participants, if you have any questions and comments, you can talk to us directly. Have your mic on and talk to us, talk to Sayani directly, or you can write your questions in the chat box. So it's time for you to ask questions, to make comments to the presenter. Any questions here? Okay, and we are also going to give you the link for evaluation and the e-certificates. Yes, teacher, teacher Julia, the question is, can you explain more about ESA approach? Sia, okay, Sia, can you?
Okay, so ESA is like you start with the engage state. Okay, so it's like you set the contents, you try to engage with the learners. And then S is like study. So it's like the present. So you try to present the language. At the time, you study together with the students. At the time, so for me, it's like when I study together with my students, I usually use the guided discovery, sometimes self-guided discovery. So that I want to focus on my learners only, and I want to promote my learners autonomy. So that's why I just use these two techniques. And then the next one is A is activate. Activate is like the you can start with the control practice and then freer practice. Sometimes if you want to activate the language items, you can use some of the games, activities like this. Okay, so that is the ESA. You don't need to follow ESA order. You can start with the steady stage, and then you trying to elicit the language items, and then you can use it, apply it, and engage it. So like this. So that is a patchwork. I recommend reading the practice of English teaching from Jeremy Hammer. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So, okay, basically, engage is getting students interested, motivated. So, we do things, okay, to get the students interested in the lesson. So, engaging the students with the lessons and the teachers engaging with the learners. So making engagement, meaning making things more interesting. That's engagement. And the next one, study. Study is the study. Okay, you study
Yes.
the lesson, the language points. Activate is okay, kind of starting to reflect and use it, trying. Okay, so actively using things actively. Yes. Okay, so the order is ESA, but as I mentioned, okay, sometimes you may start with activation stage and later study English. Okay, but okay, and if you can read Jeremy Hama, if you can, okay, I think later Sia will give you the references, and
Yes.
then you find the source where you can find
Yes.
this approach. Thank you. And there's a teacher who has got a question. Okay, the question is, do we need to make lesson plans in our daily lessons? A very good question, Sia. Well, how would you take it, Sia?
So it depends. So if your organization need an everyday lesson planning, so you should do it. So if you have time, so you can just do it. But sometimes, if you don't have enough time, so you should write a running order first. Then later part after teaching, you can just put it in the sheet. So that's my answer. And if you don't need it every day, so just feel free to be a human teacher. Okay, so you don't need to be a robotic teacher. Sometimes the student may not go well with your very detailed lesson planning, so that's fine. Plan it effectively. So we need to know how to how to do. Yes.
Lesson planning is essential part of our teacher's life.
Yes.
The only thing is, are we going to plan in very much detail, or are we just going to have a very general lesson plan? Okay, general is just points, bullet points or numbers. 1, reading. Okay, and number 2, okay, grammar. Number 3, speaking. So very, very general. But we do this only when we are quite experienced. Okay, but if you are less experienced, detailed lesson planning is the best. But I know, okay, the teachers, most of us are very busy. We don't have time. So at least you should have some ideas of what you are doing in the class. You have it on a list, okay, and you go into the class with the list so that you will not forget. And you, it is going to be a guideline. It's like a shopping list, okay. When you go shopping, okay, you have a list. So it is the same, okay. When you are in the class, if you have a plan, you know what you are doing, and you will not forget things out. Okay, so we would recommend you to do the lesson plan daily for every lesson. Thank you.
So let me put another idea. So if you are using PowerPoint slides, so you can prepare in a very detailed plan in your PowerPoint. So at the time you can connect it with the lesson planning. So that's one of the way I usually apply with the technology. Okay, and also we also had some of the suggestions from using ChatGPT to plan the lessons. So that's why we can have the AI assistants to plan our lesson effectively.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, these days we can make use of technology. We can harness technology to make use of it for our language teaching purposes. Yes, and here is one question. Okay, the question is about how we can plan to teach writing skills. Can you give an example?
Okay. For the writing lessons, so there will be process and product writing lessons. So you can just explore it. So, but I will start with some of the task-based learning, so that I have done recently. So for the task-based lesson, so you can start with the prompts, and then you just show the prompts to the students first, and then you you are starting the task. Then you let the student guess it. So what will be like, student will be talking and guessing in their group. After that, they need to think about the whole thing, that what will happen in these prompts. So you give the prompts and then you ask the students to write a complete story or a complete writing. And then finally, just you show it with the sample one. Then the student will be compared together. Then they will learn something new from these writing. After that, you can just highlight the language items, or you can just describe how to write the lessons for the argumentative or like problem solution essay or like this. So this is the task-based planning. So you can start with the task for the writing. Yes, that's just a very brief one. Yes, okay. So what about the next? May I know how can we one question is that how can we do assessment sessions? How many techniques will you suggest for assessment session? Do you mean like the feedback session? So if it is the feedback session, you can use like for the content. So you can ask your students to correct it. If not, I won't suggest the teachers lead the correction. So I suggest you the students will lead the correcting stage. So you ask the students to correct it by themselves first, or you can ask the other students like peer checking, like peer correction. So we can use like that. We can ask the student first, then you can come in to the assessment session. Okay, so I hope my answer would be successful or satisfying to you. Okay.
There's
May I
another
know-
question here. May I know
Yes.
how to plan for reading?
May I know how to?
Surgeon-
Okay. So you set the context facts, and then you go with the gist reading. Then for the detail reading, then you give the reflection or communicative value to the reading. So if you were that character in the reading, what would you do like this? So that's the brief running order. So to know more about in a very detailed one, so you should explore it. So we should have a good reference book like Jeremy Hammer or like James Scrivana. So they will give you a detailed one. Okay. And also, I suggest you to look at the samples of the reading lesson plans from the internet. And like we can use some of the AIs like this. Okay. So any more questions? Oh, teacher May is back. Okay.
Yes, okay.
There's
okay,
another
sorry.
teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
sorry.
would like to clarify one thing.
Yes.
It's not very clear about skills aim, and he wants to make sure how it's different from the linguistic aim.
Okay. So scale aim is about to develop. So for the reading, we are not going to use that reading in our life. For example, if you are reading about the fairy tales about the Cinderella, we are not going to apply it in our life, right? So that's why we have to develop the scale. So for the speaking, the students will be able to speak in the context of the. For the scale, grammar items and vocabulary, now I am using my utterances. So that's why I need to apply all these items in my utterances, and I need to apply it. So that's why uses observable verbs, whether they can use it or whether they can apply it, analyze it in the context of something like this. Okay.
There's another question also here. For listening lessons, how should the teacher plan the lesson effectively if there are a lot of students in a classroom? How can I control the class?
Okay, so it depends on the teacher's classroom management, I think. So you can plan the listening lessons starting from the pre-listening stage and then listening stage and then finally post-listening stage. So that is very simple. For the scale lesson, we only need to think about pre, while, post. So that will be very clear in our mind. And also for the large classroom, sometimes you need to pre-teach some of the words and phrases from the listening so that all the students are familiar with and the words and the phrases have connections between the listening and then your pre-teaching stage. So that's my pre-teaching. And then if there are lots of students in the classroom, you would need a very large Bluetooth box. And then so you should prepare everything in details like do you need a worksheet? Sometimes you need to just provide a script, listening script for the students. So we need to consider from the every aspect. Yes.
There's another question to ask your opinion on Myanmar curriculums, yeah? One of the Saya mentioned that as a Myanmar curriculum private English teacher, I want to ask, how do you think about Myanmar curriculum?
Okay. So yes, I think they are good. Okay. So there is no perfect curriculum. So that's my that's my, how shall I say, my preference answer. So there is no perfect one. Like I have heard like SARS principle. Okay, SARS principle is like if you are going to use course book or curriculums, So we should use the search principle: select and then adapt, reject, and then supplement. So this is the search principle I have read from the British Council. So like teachers, so if you are going to deliver an effective lesson, so there is no perfect or very flawless one. So teachers should adjust it, adapt it, reject it, and you should supplement it. So I recommend like this. Myanmar textbook and like the curriculums are quite good. So they would be suitable for the learners of Myanmar. So sometimes in our situation and the other country situation, sometimes we can't compare it, but we can make it better and better in the future. Okay, let's hope for the best.
Thank you, Sia. There's another one. I want to get more ways and advice for how to teach effectively to 10-year-old learners about grammar lesson, cause I feel unsatisfied with their pronunciation about grammar.
Oh, okay. So for the young learners, we need to prepare in every stage of the lessons. And also, I think the teacher should learn how to teach for the young learners, like joining TKDY classes. So at the time, you have to draw a detailed lessons. So for the young learners, so we need to, I have highlighted, we need to divide the task. Okay, break the task down. So we need to give every details with a simple, clear instruction that we should like pull the students to the goal that we would like to reach, like this. And also if the children or like the child is not quite good with the pronunciation skill, so you can model it perfectly or let the students listen to the native speaker sounds and like watching the movies or watching the YouTube shorts, like this. Okay, that would be very effective. For the grammars, like what I noticed is like please do not use some of the meta language. So teachers tend to use the meta language, for example, grammar, present perfect. So sometimes we can use it. So what I noticed from the global English young learners book is like they start to use, instead of saying grammar, they use the language focus. So, and then instead of saying gerund, they use the verb ing. So we should break down our language so that the learners can take in their mind. Okay, so that's my perspective, and I will try my best to answer it.
That's very useful,
Just
Sia.
a
Thank you so
feedback.
much.
Yes.
And there's one more. One of the teacher would like to know one thing. If I don't write lesson plan, would it be okay? It's really stressful for me as it is the first time.
Okay. If you, for example, for me, okay, personally, I usually have some notes in my notebook. Okay, so even though I don't have much time to draw a very detailed lesson, so I recommend you to use the very short lesson plans if you don't have time. But if you have time, you should make it. And sorry, can you please repeat the essence of the question? If
The essence is that the teacher is really stressful about making lesson plan. So since it is the first time for her, that's why. Do you think it is necessary to make it?
Okay, so if it is the first time, please do it. Okay, so it's like for example, if you haven't tried it first, so you might not know the taste of planning the lessons. So after planning the very detailed and impactful and effective lessons, you will come to realize that like you will feel joyful. Oh, I've done it. Okay, so you will have a sense of achievement after this. So teachers, if you're a reservice teacher or for the first time, please do a very detailed lesson planning, even though it may take a day. So please do it. I encourage like this. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sia. The last but not the least, in some organizations, they request to give lesson planning for the whole course. In that situation, which one is more beneficial, planning each week or days and planning for the whole?
Okay, so it may depend on the organization. So planning everything is good. Okay. So if you plan for the weekly lesson, it will be effective and you will know what will you do in the on Monday, on Tuesday, and you will have a continuous lesson plan. If you plan a whole year, so you will come to realize that within the set limited time, so I have to finish this lesson within this week, within this week. So planning is really good. So if you plan lessons very well for the individual lesson, mean like daily lesson, and also for the weekly lesson, and also for the monthly, and also for the whole year lesson, so it really beneficial, and you can also reflect it so about your lesson planning and the teaching, so you can also make some of the improvement and changes for the next year. Yes, teacher.
Thank you so much, Sia. These are all the questions raised in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank
Sia,
you.
the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Firstly, on behalf of all the participants, our heartfelt thanks to you. Great contribution to the professional development of our teachers and the teaching methods, teaching models, and the techniques. Some principles you share for how to plan lessons effectively are so useful and practical that we all are ready to apply all those key takeaways from the webinar to our real teaching content. And we'd like to say big thanks to Teacher May for your facilitation to have made this a success. And our heartfelt thanks go to all the attendees here for your time, presence, and active participation throughout. Last but not the least, and big thanks to Streamline Training and Learning Center for sponsoring the Zoom account. And we'd like to say thank you to our team members, volunteer team members for all your time, effort, continuous support, and contribution for our Myanmar TESOL organization great success. Everyone, stay tuned to more and more exciting and useful webinar for the professional development sessions in coming December and training session in 2024. Thank you. See you soon, everyone.